Welcome, pilots! I'm back with what I expect to be my final video on the Interstellar Convergence crossover event between Doctor Who and EVE Online. My first video covered the Warp Matrix Convergence relic sites, and the second covered all three of the exploration-focused sites: the Curious, Enigmatic, and Mysterious Filaments. In this video, we'll be looking at the combat-focused sites from the Precarious and Hazardous Filaments. If you're watching this prior to trying out the event sites, be aware that this video contains spoilers. There are 4 combat-focused Warp Matrix Filaments. Before you can gain access to these combat sites, you'll first need to run the Warp Matrix Convergence relic sites, followed by the Curious Filament sites. Blueprints for the Precarious Filaments can only be found through the Exploration Filament sites, unless you choose to simply buy them off the market. For this video, I'll be taking you through my journey attempting the combat filament sites, starting of course with the Precarious Filaments. Not knowing what to expect, I chose to fly a Caracal for my first outing. This fit uses rapid light missiles in case there are any frigate-sized enemies. I have an Afterburner with a strong active shield tank and resists above 50% for all damage types. The large capacitor battery and flex coils make it cap stable, and the 2 ballistic control systems take the ship just above 250 DPS on missiles. To make the fit work, it needs several rigs to increase power grid, capacitor recharge, and to fill the EM resist hole. Let's see how the Caracal fares against the Daleks. Looks like there are 2 Corvette-sized enemies, and a single battlecruiser. There are also a smattering of convergent Nexus objects. I couldn't help but take in the scenery for a few moments. Gotta get a good thumbnail background. The 2 Corvettes are hitting our capacitor, so I decided to take them out first. It wasn't until my second run that I thought to take an up-close look, and yes, those are actually Daleks flying around in space. Despite being critically damaged, the saucer takes a significant amount of damage to destroy. And looking at its attributes, it's both omni-tanked and applies all 4 damage types. After a whole lot of shooting, we loot the wreck to find some new variations of the strange matter components. After the first run, I decided to switch over to a higher DPS Vexor. This uses 200mm railguns with ogres and hobgoblins to achieve 600 DPS in total. Again, I fit an Afterburner with a medium cap battery and cap recharger. I figured I'd add a Webifier to hold the Daleks in place when they approach. In the low slots, I have a damage control, armor repair, and 3 damage modules. Overall, this Vexor has a thin tank, but will rely on high DPS to take out the saucer more quickly. With this fit, I'm able to snipe the 2 Daleks straight away, and then just blast away at the saucer, using 2 ogres and 3 hobgoblins. This cuts the time down to about 3 minutes. Next up is the Hazardous Filament, and oh boy, this was a surprisingly big step up in difficulty. You can find blueprints for the Hazardous Filament as a random drop from the saucers in the Precarious Filament sites, as well as the containers from Enigmatic or Mysterious Filament sites. My first attempt was with the same Vexor Fit, and it turned out that was a mistake. I was really caught off guard by all the extra Daleks, and didn't even notice there were sentry towers before it was too late. The main thing to take note of here is the range of the 2 turrets. They're on opposite sides of the arena, with one of them nearly 100 kilometers from your starting position. It is possible this fit may still be capable of running the site if you play it right, but this experience took me back to the drawing board. This is the updated Vexor Fit that I've settled on. I've replaced 2 of the railguns with drone link augmenters, and equipped a sensor booster in the mid-slots. This allows you to target the turrets and stick your drones on them at any time of your choosing. I also replaced 2 of the damage modules in the low slots with a significant armor tank, including an armor plate to give us an extra buffer. With the explosive armor reinforcer rig, the ship's armor resists are comfortably above 50% for all damage types. All this extra tank was what I needed to be able to figure out what all is going on in the Hazardous Filament site. The saucer will deploy 2 waves of Daleks back to back, before taking a long break to deploy any further waves. So you can focus the first few minutes on taking out one of the sentry turrets, as well as those first 2 waves. You can then take out the second sentry tower and finally focus on the saucer until the next wave of Daleks. The saucer will also fire some rather slow-moving guided bombs at you. I'm not actually entirely clear what these are doing when they hit you. Are they maybe taking a chunk out of your capacitor? They don't seem to deal any damage. There was a point at which the saucer suddenly teleported across the arena, which confused me at first. It turns out there's a spherical boundary in the arena, and any ship that crosses it will teleport it to the opposite side. You can use this, or the accelerant nexus distortions, to your advantage if your tank is coming under heavy pressure. I originally planned to come up with a cruiser fit for each player faction, but after experiencing the site, I definitely feel that the Vexor is likely the strongest choice. The Caracal is probably a close second. In general, I think you want an active Omni-tank with 50% resists, a capacitor battery to protect you from energy neutralization, and a way to target and apply damage from at least 60 kilometers in order to deal with the sentry turrets. With all the pressure on your capacitor, I suspect ships whose DPS relies on capacitor usage might struggle. This could make things difficult for the Mauler, Thorax, Moa, and Omen. I'd be interested in your comments if you successfully completed the Hazardous Site solo with any of these cruisers. This is my final video on the Interstellar Convergence event, as I'll now be focusing my efforts on my upcoming 13-part series for high-security Angel Cartel combat sites. If you find yourself in Galent or Caldari space, my past work includes a similar 13-part series for each of the Serpentis and Garistas combat sites. I also recently released a 3-part series discussing the use of assault frigates for combat site exploration, as well as the first part of what will eventually be a 5-part series on tactical destroyers. You can find all of my EVE Online content on my website over at RileyEntertainment.com. Thanks for making it to the very end, and I hope to see you back on my channel soon.